Hello and welcome to the Ascension Path interview series. I'm your host, Karanique, and in this series we are discovering different ways on how to deeply connect with your higher self to create a life of unconditional love, flow and inner peace. And today it is my utter joy and delight to welcome Jennifer Taylor. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate being here and thanks for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, to start off with, this is really a dream come true for me because I couldn't imagine doing this summit without inviting the staff from Quantum Touch because it's been such an influence, a big influence in my life. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah.
So Jennifer Taylor is the Chief Magical Officer of Quantum Touch, which is a company that teaches energy healing workshops around the world. She has dedicated her life work to helping people discover the healing power of their love. She strives to integrate spirituality and business by implementing business practices that include spiritually rewarding jobs, loving spiritual service to the world, environmental responsibility, and financial abundance. She hopes to help others not only heal physically, but also discover their life purpose and live the life of their dreams. Wow, that's lovely. So, Jennifer, I'd love to start off with you sharing a bit about yourself and your background story and why you do what you do today and where you're coming from.
Okay, great. So as many of you may know, I've been running Quantum Touch for the last 18 years. And I discovered Quantum Touch quite by accident. I was actually working as a software developer at a company on Maui. I received my degree in computer science and I was out working in software. I actually hated my job. And it had nothing to do with my bosses or any of that. I just felt like I wasn't really doing what I came here to do. I think we all have that inner kind of urge that there's something our mission, that there's something that we're here to do. And I knew I wasn't doing it. So I worked as a software developer during the day, but at night I went to massage school because I was really fascinated by body work and human touch. And one of my questions was, what is that energy that's exchanged between people when they do body work? And I was really fascinated by this unseen energy exchange that I was sensing, but I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
So I went to a massage school and they had a course on energy medicine. And when I started taking that course, I knew that energy medicine was my life work. Just got the download from spirit, I guess you could say, that spirit said, this is your life work and this is, where you need to go. And many times I think when people get their download of their life work, they think, well, that's impossible. Yeah, you're kidding, right?
Yeah,
that's not really my life work, because the problem is energy medicine 18 years ago wasn't really well known. Nobody understood energy medicine. It was a fringe practice, if that even. And I couldn't fathom actually being able to make a living at energy medicine, let alone a decent living, because as a software developer, I was making a nice living. And so my response to spirit was, yeah, you're nuts. That's never going to happen. There's no way I can do this for a living. Nobody can do this for a living. But shortly after that, I went to a lecture on Quantum Touch by Richard Gordon, who was doing a lecture at the bookstore on Maui. And at the lecture, I heard Richard talk, and I got another download from Spirit that said, you're supposed to run Quantum Touch. So let's look at this. Richard was a complete stranger. I didn't know who he was. We had no previous interaction. I was living on Maui. He was living in Santa Cruz. Again, I thought, well, do I just go up and say, by the way, Richard, you don't know me, but I'm supposed to run your company. So that's not what I did. I just started hanging out with Richard and looked at what unfolded.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing another crazy thing, and I decided to move to Santa Cruz. I was living on Maui, and I quit my job and I moved to Santa Cruz. I actually moved in with Richard, and we thought maybe we'd be a couple. So we explored that, and at the same time, his business was failing. He had been traveling around the world, actually around the United States, giving lectures and teaching workshops. And he decided he was too burnt out to continue traveling, so he decided to stop traveling. The only problem with this is when he stopped traveling, no money came into the organization as well. That was the only source of money. So when he stopped traveling, the whole thing started to die. There was no money coming in. And there was the CEO of Quantum Touch at the time called me and said, I need to get a real job. So I think I'm going to quit, and if you want, why don't you take over the business? So that's how I came to be the CEO of Quantum Touch.
That's really inspiring, yeah. And that was your real job anyway. Yeah, I absolutely love your title, by the way, of Chief Magical Officer. How did you come to that title?
Well, okay, so one of the things that traditional corporations, to me, sometimes in my mind, there are a lot of corporations that make money at the expense of other people. And so one of my things is I don't really like the traditional corporate titles because it reminds me of, those corporations that make money and exploit people for money. I hesitate around those titles. And there's a lot of great corporations out there that do a lot of wonderful things, but there's also, I feel like, some that exploit people where their only focus is profit. So I don't know, I decided I'm changing titles here. So instead of Chief Executive Officer, I call myself Chief Magical Officer. So it's just for fun.
Yeah, well, life is fun, so that's brilliant. Yeah, so Jennifer, I'd love you to give us your definition of the Ascension path or the Ascension process and connecting with your higher self. How do you see that?
So I feel that basically Ascension or enlightenment or bringing your vibration up, really what is really going on is that everyone has a purpose here. And that purpose is in your heart. It's what your heart is telling you to do. And so basically I feel like there's, when you do things that are in alignment with who you are, that is the path towards ascension. When you're in alignment with your values and your truth, your authentic self, you are raising your vibration, because we're really here to be who we are, actually.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And there's a lot of things that I think we all do that are not in alignment with our authentic selves, based on, trying to people please, trying to, feeling that we need to, panic about money or fear. There's a lot of things that we do out of fear, and I'm not immune to this, because there's the question is it love or fear? Are we acting from love or fear? And when we act from fear, I don't think that's authentic, but it's easy to do. And so it's basically raising your vibration by acting in accordance with your authentic self, which means acting in accordance with love. I don't think it's an easy thing.
You don't think it's
I don't think it's that easy.
No. Yeah, exactly. So what are your top 3 tips to raise your vibration and be aligned with your authentic self?
Well, one of the things I feel is first that we need to listen to our heart, which is really, again, I feel like it's not easy to do. We're bombarded by lots of noise and lots of responsibilities and lots of obligations, and so it's hard to take that time to just sit and listen to what your heart's trying to say. But I believe that's one of the top tips, is to find that time every day to check in and say, what feels authentic for me? And yeah, and I think it's really important to understand that, and even though because that's the first step, really, and sometimes it may be hard to act on what's authentic, but at least you understand that, because I think a lot of people don't even take the time right now to even feel what is that. That's my top tip. And the other tips that I would offer have a lot to do with how do you take that time to connect with your heart, because we have to carve out that time. And also, how do you, in this world where you have problems and issues and stress and things like that, how do you connect to your love and connect to your gratitude? Because I think that's really hard too, is, you know, taking that time to connect to your gratitude. I think gratitude is really hard for a lot of people. Even me sometimes, if I'm feeling grief or some other emotion, finding gratitude is really hard. So I think just taking some time out to listen to your heart and do that by opening your heart, which requires gratitude.
That's so cool. Getting into that space of gratitude, it's such a powerful energy. And so how would you say running the energy quantum touch style helps with the ascension process?
I think that running energy helps us connect to our heart. I think that's why it's so powerful, because it helps us open the heart. And once we open the heart, whatever's going on with us that created certain health problems or whatever is not our truth starts to come up to the surface to process. So if you've ever noticed when you're doing energy and you open your heart, you're more in tune with what the truth is for yourself. And then you may realize that there's things in your life that are not aligned. And I think that's one of the that's how I use energy work, is to sort out what's in alignment, what's in my truth, what's out of alignment, where am I not following my guidance or my path. So I use it that way.
Yeah, that's inspiring. That's lovely. I know I use it to sort of connect with myself as well, you know, because it's a wonderful tool for yourself as well as for the other people. Just that connection, that heart opening, and just feeling this open space. And it's so powerful and so beautiful, so and magical. Yeah. So. You know, we like talking about magical and mystical experiences. Have you any experiences you'd like to share with the audience to inspire and help people along the way?
Well, what I feel, so I think some people have these super mystical near-death experiences and things like that, and I've never really had that. But what I feel has been magical and mystical in my life is when I open my heart and connect to my guidance, and the synchronicities that occur that become really magical and mystical. Almost, if you think about it, let's pretend that my mouse here is like the train to paradise or whatever, right? So if you're hopping on that path by opening your heart, when you start to follow that, things open up, things flow, things feel good. And if you're not following that, things tend to, block or you feel stymied, or so that's a big difference from me following your path versus not. But the magical synchronicities that happen when you're fully open and fully aligned are really amazing. And I've seen a lot of magical synchronicities.
Yeah. I know with running the energy, I've had an amazing experience where I've actually seen that I am just energy. I'm so much more than a physical body, you know, my hands disappearing, and it's just absolutely amazing. And like, what can I do with this? Yeah. So I know you are interested and talk about creating financial abundance while doing what you love. Would you care to talk about this with us?
So I feel like a lot of people in our community, and me included in the past, have really struggled with money. You know, we have this heart-centered desire to help people, which is wonderful. But so many people, and I get emails on this almost daily, are doing what they love, and yet they can't make ends meet at all. I've noticed life coaches or other people who are struggling to the point where they're living out of their car. or couch surfing, and it's really heartbreaking to see this struggle with money. And so what is it? I mean, what is in the way, right? That's a great question. And I believe that there's several blocks towards financial abundance, and I was doing all of these. So I will start with what I feel is one of the major blocks is what I'm calling martyrhood or victim consciousness. It's and it's perpetuated in the healing fields because we have a long tradition of martyrhood. So, for example, nuns who take a vow of poverty. Even Christ was a martyr, dying for our sins, right? So that our religion is based on martyrhood. So I believe that many of us light workers in the past have taken vows of poverty or have aligned ourselves so that martyrhood is somehow more pious or more advanced than abundance. There's also, as I alluded to earlier, there's this association of money and greed that tends to happen. You know, even I do it. You know, sometimes I think, well, these corporations that make a lot of money are greedy. Now, is that right or wrong? You know, it's just a negative association. So the block of martyrhood comes hand in hand with victim consciousness, feeling like a victim. And it typically goes like this. Well, if I do what I love, the money should come. So, but the money is not coming, so it's God's fault or spirit or all that is. And that goes hand in hand with a martyr, because you know what the tendency is to think, okay, well, God's supposed to bring me money now. I thought that for years. I was thinking, okay, I'm doing what I love. I'm serving the world. Why isn't spirit bringing me money? So, and I see the victim consciousness, it sneaks into people's mindset, even if we're not even fully aware. Because people, if they're not blaming God, they're blaming the system. Oh, Donald Trump, I can't get ahead. They're blaming maybe their spouse or their circumstances, or there's a blame going on somewhere. And my whole mission right now is to help people eliminate the victim consciousness from their mentality, because martyrhood and victim is like the antithesis of abundance. You can't have abundance if you're feeling like a victim, because your consciousness isn't abundant. So if you're feeling like a victim, know that that's what's keeping you broke. And I was doing that in spades. And one of the things too is that if we look at the law of attraction, we create our reality. We do create. I believe that the law of attraction is a universal law, that we actually do create our reality. So if we're a victim, we can't create our reality. We're waiting for our reality to happen to us. We're waiting for the flow, as some people call it. We're waiting for spirit to take action. Whereas what we need to do is say, look, I create my reality. I create my bank account. I'm completely responsible. And then say, I have the power to change it. And the thing about the law of attraction is we're creating this from an energetic place. So if we can eliminate the victim consciousness, that shifts our energy right away. It's a big step, and it's all encompassing. So when I shifted out of victim consciousness and said, all right, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to let the martyrhood go. I'm going to stop feeling like a martyr for the cause. Things started to turn around right away.
Wow, yeah. So it was just a decision, because, you know, with all this programming from years of victimhood and earning money is not good or whatever, sometimes it's like, how do we break through from that when it is an unconscious programming that's within us?
First is to look at, are you running this victim script somewhere in your life? And I believe that if you're not financially abundant, you may be running this somewhere. So to start to have a greater level of awareness, do you ever think, poor me, or I'm a victim, or I'm depressed, or do these thoughts come up? They came up a lot, but I wasn't really fully willing to own the fact that I was playing a victim. So
that's a big step forward, that's for sure. Yeah,
it's a big step. So listening to your thoughts about, if you're saying, oh, I don't have any money and my car is broken, and are you going into that story? Just to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
If you're depressed, you probably are going into that story, a victim, because depression means I have no power.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no power to make a change, right?
Yeah. I hear that on a linguistic level. Depressed is deep rest. The body needs to rest from the old way of thinking, sort of thing. Yeah. So I know you have an upcoming book that talks about this. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, actually, it's in the background right now, but I'm writing this book called Spiritual and Broke: How to Stop Struggling with Money and Live Your Purpose. And it basically outlines all the mistakes I was making. The victim mentality was a big mistake I was making. And I outline my struggle with the law of attraction. Is the law of attraction actually universal, or are there certain things that are beyond the law of attraction? I struggled with that because I feel like the law of attraction can be hard to accept when something really bad happens. And I also talk about how I was entrenched in the victim mentality, and how it was really creating problems with my finances, and how I dug myself out of that mentality with a few wake-up calls that I had, which I describe in my book. I had some pretty major wake-up calls to get me out of that mentality. Yeah, and then I talk about also one of the things I think is really important once we take ownership of ourselves and our life, and this can also apply to health, is following your guidance. So whenever you're doing, if you're trying to deal with your money or your relationships or your health, once you take responsibility, then the next step, I feel like, is now it's time to follow your own guidance. And that includes what modalities you use. I mean, quantum touch is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It may not be right for everyone, though. So if your guidance isn't leading you here, own that. I would prefer that people really follow their guidance than have a lot of customers, right? Because when you're following your truth, you're going to make inroads into your problems. So that's a really important step, and I did that with my finances. I've been, and guidance is sometimes hard to follow. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Yeah, well, most definitely. And how would you advise to follow this guidance? Because it can be very frightening at times.
Guidance sometimes will advise you to do something that's really scary, like letting go of a relationship, moving somewhere that's more aligned with you, letting go of certain habits that can be super hard to let go of. Just over and over again, it can be really hard to actually follow it. And because it's like letting go sometimes of your comfort zone.
That's definitely the one that's important to emphasize.
Or you're uncomfortably comfortable.
It's exactly that. It's staying in a space that you think is comfortable, but in fact it is uncomfortable.
You're uncomfortable with it, but it's hard to change. I mean, that's a lot of what energy healing, health to me, does this a lot, because if you have health problems, there's usually something within you that is unhealthy, consciousness, energy-wise, and it may be hard to let go of some of this stuff. For example, a lot of times we come up with, when we do energy work, unprocessed emotion comes up. Like anger is typically one of the things that comes up. People have harbored this anger for years of, let's say you grew up in an abusive background, sure, you're going to be angry about it. You may harbor this anger for years and years and years because it wasn't right. It wasn't okay. That's not okay to be abused. But the hard part is whether it was right or not, whether justice was served or not, holding on to that anger is hurting yourself. It's the vibration of energy that's keeping you locked into your health problems. And so I'm a really big proponent of, if you're angry about something that happened in the past and you have health problems, it's important to get over that idea that somehow you're excusing the behavior by letting it go. And I think that's one of the misnomers about forgiveness is forgiveness isn't saying that that's okay. Forgiveness is saying, I'm going to let this go because it's harming myself. I'm festering onto this vibration of negativity, and this vibration of negativity is harming myself. And a lot of times when you let stuff go, your guidance may have been guiding you for years to let this go. It's time to let it go. Yeah. It's hard because you want justice, but it's hard. You got to let it go. Same thing with.
Sorry, I was going to say, listening to that inner guidance is going to lead you down the path in order to be able to let go of it, which can be obviously uncomfortable.
Yeah, your guidance will often urge you and advise you to let things go that you may not want to let go, whether it's a habit or anger and for festering anger, or maybe physical things that don't serve you, or a relationship. I think it's hard. It can be hard to follow it, but that's important because that'll change your consciousness, which then shifts your reality.
And even, well, from my experience, this path of following what's uncomfortable always leads to doors opening elsewhere, but you can't see it when you're actually going through the process of letting go. So, yeah.
It's a major part of healing. Also, I feel like a lot of what I've seen with energy is a lot of these health conditions or even financial conditions are really a blessing to us because it helps us get onto our authentic path. So a lot of times, I was talking to a friend who's a cancer survivor, and she was grateful now, not back then, but now for her cancer because it got her onto a different path in her life. And that's what needed to happen. And one of our things that Richard and I say is, if you don't listen to the whispers, you might have to hear the screams.
Yes.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah, most definitely,
Yeah, meaning that if you get these little nudges that you need to do something else or go over here or change your lifestyle, and you're not following those nudges, you'll get a bigger nudge in the form of something that like cancer or some other issue that will actually, in essence, I hate to use the word force, but it heavily urges you to change.
Yeah, definitely. It's just that energy of whatever is not serving you that comes to you in a soft and gentle form at first, and just keeps coming back until, okay, I've got to deal with this now. This is just too painful.
It gets to the point where it becomes so painful that you have to make a change. Yeah, you're familiar with that.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and the quantum touch has served me anyway, so that's beautiful. I'm going to have to wrap this up. I know you're kindly offering us something for the audience. Would you like to just talk into the gift?
Sure. Okay. So right now, as you all know, I'm working on a book called Spiritual and Broke, and I'm offering the first 3 chapters for free. So if you go to my website, which is jennifernoeltaylor.com, and you sign up for my mailing list, you'll see that you get the first 3 chapters for free. And I hope you get a chance to review it. I'm hoping that if you resonate with it.
Well, I assume that lots of people will. So, thank you so much, Lou. And I have a little gift for you. At the beginning of my path, I was inspired by Louise Hay, so I have her little book on power thoughts and daily affirmations. So I asked my guidance to lead me to the perfect affirmation for you today and this session. So it's, I follow my inner star. I am a shining example of love and light. That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, thank you so much. So, are there any things you'd like to add, or what's coming up for you before I finally close this?
Yeah, I feel like I want to end this show with saying to the audience that really follow your heart, really listen to your heart and follow your heart, and you'll be happy that you did.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, and so thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for sharing your love and light, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Lots of love to everyone.
Great. Well,
Bye.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.